Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
A little bit more of a serious topic today.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes there just important things happen that need to be spoken about.
Yeah. And need to be addressed um and this is very much an open commentary and open we like to create a safe space um for open dialogue about these things, but yeah, this is something that recently happened. If you don't know, on February 14th, there was a mass school shooting in Florida at a high school, and our thoughts and prayers go out to
Yeah,
those families and those people
yeah,
affected by that. We're recording this podcast a day after. Well,
right.
then the day after it
And
happens.
and there's still quite a bit of information
Yeah.
that hasn't come out. So if more information has come out while this has been
After.
after this has been posted, it's because we didn't have that information at the
Yeah.
time that we most likely left it out. Um, but for those of you who don't know, it was a mass shooting in a Florida high school by an ex-student, um, and 17 were killed. I think a few more were injured. Um, and there's news coming out. Um, it's not like verified yet,
Uh.
but there's news coming out that this kid was part of a white supremacist group. And there's even like conspiracy theories that like he was being trained by said supremacy group to shoot up the school. Um, for those of you who don't know, he did escape with his life. So he did not kill himself like a lot of the mass shooters have. And he ended up getting taken into custody after his grandmother found a detailed journal under his bed, like saying his plans to shoot up the school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Um, I don't know what weapon was used, but I know it was legal. It was a semi-automatic. It wasn't automatic.
It was AR-15.
Was it? I wasn't
Yeah.
sure because I've heard a lot of people talk about that gun, but I feel like whenever anything with a gun happens, people bring up that gun.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just a true tragedy. And I think some of the things we kind of wanted to talk about is like, how there needs to be something done about
Yeah.
this.
How Trump's dealing with this. How,
I think
the media and
how often
everyone's
this
dealing with
is
it.
is happening
Yeah.
is just mind blowing. The fact
Mhm.
that school shootings has almost become normalized.
Yeah.
I mean, if you imagine this happening in another country, there would be weeks of grieving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There would be huge, probably countrywide, ceremonies and stuff like that. And in America, we almost shrug it off like, oh man, sucks.
Right.
Another school shooting. I wish there was something I could
Another
do.
mass shooting.
Right. And we all just sit there like, oh man, I wish there was something we can do, as if we're powerless.
Mm-hmm.
In a democratic system, the people run the government. The people are the ones empowered. So you need to do what you can to support,
Mm-hmm.
and help end this. And I think there's some interesting things that have been coming out of this, which I actually think is very interesting. For example, a lot of people have started calling out the congressmen who have been getting like mass donations from the NRA. For those of you who don't know, the NRA is the National Rifle Association, which basically is a lobbying group that lobbies for less gun laws, more gun freedom, and they want to encourage gun ownership and gun purchasing and gun sales and everything. They are not for the regulation of guns. But some of these numbers are just ridiculous, such as Congressman Richard Burr has accepted over $6 million from the NRA. Roy Blunt has accepted over $4 million. Tom Tills has accepted over $4 million. Cory Gardner has accepted over $3 million. Marco Rubio, who ran for president, by the way, accepted over $3 million. Joni Ernst has accepted over $3 million.
This is crazy.
Rob Portman has accepted over $3 million. Todd Young has accepted nearly $3 million. And Bill Cassidy has accepted $2.8 million from the NRA.
Right. That's the type of thing that like makes me have less faith in the government, because like and I'm a firm believer that all of the media that all the news media in specific that's consumed is just controlled by like big companies and and people with ulterior agendas to counter to telling true accurate stories. Like it's just made to scare you into being a consumer. Like,
Right. And I'd also like to say, from that list that I've given you, a number of those GOP congressmen have come out and said that they don't know if gun control is the right move, or that they don't believe that we need to take away guns, or that gun control isn't where we need to go. Which is absurd, I think, at this point. This has become a pandemic in our nation, and there has to be something done about it.
Right. I just read that 3 of the 10 deadliest mass shootings in modern United States history have come in the last 5 months alone.
Wow.
The last 5 months, 3 of the deadliest shootings.
That's absolutely insane. And the fact that, the thing that bugs me the most is that you have the GOP candidates trying to push blame off of guns. All right, fine. Maybe it's not guns' fault. Let's just pretend it's not. It has nothing to do with guns. They still don't do anything. Right. They're blaming it on mental health, yet they pass no mental health legislation to try to prevent this from happening.
Right.
You have to take some sort of action at some point if you want this to end. It's not just going to magically disappear.
And doesn't that make sense that, if you blame it on mental health, you would pass some regulations that, that require people to take tests to make sure that they are in mentally stable environment to have guns? Right.
And you want to know,
I'm confused.
That was actually passed under the Obama administration. Did you know that Trump repealed that and said that, no, it's okay if mentally ill people do buy guns?
That's crazy.
The GOP is almost in the pocket of the NRA and will do anything they can to keep that money coming. So they will continue to fight for, gun freedoms, which is not what this country needs right now.
Not at all. It's insane how, oh damn, I lost my train of thought, because I don't know, I'm just so baffled that who in Senate isn't in the government isn't in the pockets of big companies.
Yeah. I mean, that's an excellent question that we don't really have the answer to, because and honestly, one of the things that I believe the United States needs a lot of work in is, I guess, support transparency, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
There's a better word for it, but I can't remember it. It's campaign funds transparency, because each citizen alone is only allowed to donate, I think it's $77,500. A base.
Mm-hmm.
You can't not give more than that. No citizen alone. However, with the creation of super PACs and there's these dark money channels and all these things, people have the ability to anonymously donate millions of billions of dollars if they choose, and people are doing that. And
to candidates,
campaign funds.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what they're saying is, if I'm going to give you all this money, now you're going to do what I want.
Right.
And that's I think that's just so screwed up. And I think you need to kind of regulate that. We should know who's giving money to who. On top of that, there needs to be some sort of limit. Maybe there doesn't need to be a limit, but I think the people need to self-regulate in that case. If you have a candidate who is receiving millions of dollars from the NRA and refuses to do anything about gun control, then you should not elect that person. And I also want to put this out there. I don't think by gun control the vast majority of people mean take every single gun away from everyone. I think they just mean make sure that a gun is in a properly trained, mentally stable hands.
Right.
Not just given out freely. Because in Florida, where this happened, you need to be 18 to buy a gun.
Yeah.
You can buy a gun with no driver's license, no background check, none of that. I don't know if you can buy that like that in stores, but you can have person-to-person purchases in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, a 30-year-old could go into a gun store, buy a gun legally, get the background checks, get everything, turn around, and then sell it to an 18-year-old with no checking.
Right.
So that's prohibited in some states. But like stuff like that needs to be prohibited. You know what I mean? And it might not be the easiest to enforce, but there needs to be something done. You know,
Mm-hmm.
these people should not be getting guns legally.
Right. I we definitely sit on different sides of the coin because I just feel like there shouldn't be like a it's um
Speak your mind.
yeah, I want to say like, to me the Second Amendment is like obsolete. Not obsolete, but it's something that needs amendment.
I
Like,
agree with that.
like I there's so many countries with less fatalities of guns because guns are totally banned. You know, people make this claim that like, okay, guns don't kill people, people do. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that statement.
Well, I mean,
Um,
with the whole guns kill people, but people do. Yeah, but like a gun certainly streamlines the process.
yeah,
You can't stab 50 people, in an arena
right.
from 500 yards away.
Mm. Damn, you brought up because me and Nick were actually talking about this earlier in the day before the podcast, because we knew we wanted to talk about it, and you brought up a comment about
Cars?
well, yeah, remember I said something about the cars.
There's one tweet that I actually have right here, where someone tweeted out, while we're at it, let's ban cars too. Almost 1 million people die each year in car-related accidents, and that offends me. So obviously he's saying, like, let's not ban guns. That would be ridiculous. If we're going to ban guns, then let's ban cars, which is even more absurd. And someone responded to that tweet with, well, we require driver's tests, insurance, and we have lowered speed limits, cracked down on drunk driving, cracked down on distracted driving, and passed seatbelt laws. Since we've actually started trying to prevent automobile deaths, about 17,000 American lives have been saved per year.
Yeah, and I was I was talking to Nick, and I was like, that is a fallacy. Trying to make the comparison that people killing people with guns is equal to people like either being like being a reckless driver. When you're recklessly driving, it's hard to make the assumption.
Your point earlier was, the number of people who are killed by guns is much higher than the number of people who are killed by people who are using a vehicle with the intent to kill.
Yeah, people intentionally killing with weapons is vastly higher than the people intentionally killing with vehicles.
Well, you had that concert however long ago where
in Las Vegas.
A dude was however far away
in a hotel
across the street.
Yeah, like
just raining down bullets. You can't do that with a car.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so yes, there does need to be some sort of regulation.
Yeah, I think it's absurd. Honestly, if we could find, I sit where I think there should be no guns. But if I am all for saying that, regulation needs to happen. Like, okay, if you want to keep your guns, we need to take tests. You need to be cleared.
Absolutely. I think you need to, and
things like that.
I think even on top of like, mental health and shooters, you have accidental deaths by gun just by having a gun in the home. So I think if you're going to own a gun, you should certainly know how to use it as well as clean it and
lock it away.
Make sure that it's properly stored.
Right.
So that not only are we lessening, mass shootings and mental health issues, we're also lessening accidental. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, if you think about a lot of this, for example, there was one of the recent mass shooters, he got his gun from his grandmother. Well, if she had properly stored that gun, then he wouldn't have had access to it.
Right. There's the case on I don't want to mess up the location, but the little girl who found the revolver at home and brought it to school and shot her classmates.
Oh wow, I did not hear about that.
That was like one of the more prolific school shootings in like U.S. history. It was like a little girl brought it to school. She shot 2 of her classmates by accident.
Right.
It's just that she found it. She brought it to school. She thought it was cool.
And that's kind of like,
I could be wrong. Please tweet us and let me know.
Right.
Fact check
if
me.
anything we say
I'm
wrong,
100% okay with that.
Yeah. But oh damn, I had something to say and then I forgot it.
Yeah.
Something about.
Something about.
I can't remember, and it's driving me crazy. Um,
Yeah. CNN posted an article about 2 hours ago saying Obama calls for common sense gun safety laws after Florida shooting. And when I read the headline, I was like, oh my God, he's back. Oh my God, like I'm so happy right now. But
he's not back.
he's not back,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I think.
I love they still address him as the president, though.
Really?
Yeah. Um, we are grieving with Parkland, but we are not powerless, the 44th president tweeted.
Yeah, and I
Still
think.
got to let us know. He's the true president.
I think you've got to kind of keep that in mind. We're not powerless. You are part of a democratic system,
Right.
and you have the power to vote. And I encourage everyone who listens to vote for the midterms. If you don't know when that is or what that is, then you need to start getting involved because you have a voice in this system, and you need to start using it.
Mm-hmm.
And things are never going to change if you just let the same people keep voting the same people into office. You need to
Right.
step up and, count your vote. Make it count. You can do it. You just have to go to the polling place. Find out when it is. Educate yourself, and the crazy thing is a lot of candidates make it very easy for you to know what they stand for. For example, my congresswoman recently emailed me being like, hey, this is what I stand for. I hope you agree with that. What do you stand for? She wanted to take a survey. So I took part in that survey because I want her to correctly represent me the way that I wish to be represented. And that's why I vote for her.
Right.
And I encourage you guys to go do some research and figure out who you should vote for. And, most importantly, vote.
Yeah. I pulled up the list of the 10 deadliest single-day mass shootings in modern history. I thought I'd read some of them off because it's crazy. Like, some people think like these statistics are like, falsified and fake news, but like these are real. Like, the festival you were talking about in Las Vegas, the Harvest Music Festival, 58 killed, and that was just in October 1st. And then you have the Pulse nightclub that was in 2016. In Florida, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
49 killed when somebody opened fire in a gay club. You have Sandy Hook, where 27 were killed in 2012, and Virginia Tech, where 32 were killed in 2007. And these are just like, I don't know. It's just really sad that this is what we have to do, and we're still having this debate on whether we want to regulate guns. Like,
and I think something very powerful that I read earlier was someone was like, this is not a political debate. This is not a constitutional debate. This is, we have young people in our country dying via the same thing every single time, a gunman. When are we going to start doing something about it? Because we haven't done anything.
Nothing.
There were police at the school. There was every security measure that could have possibly been taken was practically taken. Yet he was still able to kill 17 people.
All right.
And I take that back. Maybe not every single security measure was taken, but still they had police on the scenes. I believe there were metal detectors, and he still was able to kill 17 people.
Right.
I don't want to live in a world where we have to prepare for that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if you had children having to send your kids to school in a bulletproof vest so they could go through metal detectors so that they could be safe? School is supposed to be somewhere safe, not something that is like, near military feel where you're terrified.
Right.
And I think it's just ridiculous. And someone needs to do something about it. Our legislator needs to do something about protecting its citizens.
Exactly. I was just giving it a little bit of thought, and this came to mind. The First Amendment, freedom of speech, right? Mm-hmm. You lose those liberties when you go into a government building. Like they have the right to limit that. Like, when you go, as a student. Well, actually, anyone. As soon as you go onto their property of a government building, a school, anything like that, they have that property has the right to limit your freedom of speech or your freedom of expression, any of those things.
To an extent.
To an extent. The right to vote, that even itself has been, limited. You can only vote if you're registered. You can only vote in a certain place.
Yeah.
Those
Also, for a while you could only vote if you were 21.
right.
Even that's been changed. And I think
exactly.
And I get what you're saying. And even if you think about it, you can't run into a theater and yell fire.
Right.
That's illegal, but that's free speech.
Right.
No, it's not, because the government has realized that yes, you do have unalienable rights. However, in order to ensure the safety of your fellow citizens, there do need to be some restrictions.
Yes. And it's like, if you can put those restrictions on those amendments, free speech, free expression, the right to vote, why has the Second Amendment not been touched?
Right.
And
I think it's
as much as it should be.
I think it's ridiculous to say that just because the Second Amendment says should not be infringed means that it's untouchable.
Right.
Because all of them were meant to be untouchable, if you want to argue that. Yet we have still amended nearly every single amendment.
And we still are actively trying to amend other ones.
Adding more amendments because we realize that the Constitution needs to change with the times.
Right.
And I found that statistic. The school had police officers on campus, and the students had gone through many training sessions, so they knew exactly what to do during a mass shooting, and 17 people were still killed. So I don't know if they had metal detectors, but either way, should your kids have to go through metal detectors every day? Should your kids have to be searched every day? Is that the world you want to live in?
Lockdown drills all the time.
Right.
I mean, I get them.
Well,
they're a precaution, and a precaution that needs to be taken.
It's terrifying that is a precaution that needs to be taken. That's the world that we live in, where we have to anticipate for someone to come in and kill our young people.
Right. That's what we have to deal with.
And you're saying, oh, well, gun control is not the answer, so there's nothing we can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we at least try it? You say it's gonna, inconvenience the law-abiding citizen. Sorry for the inconvenience. Right. We're trying to save lives.
I'm sorry you have to take your road test, learn how to parallel park, learn a 3-point turn, because that makes the rest of the road safe for other citizens. I'm sorry. Did you make that apology? Right. Are you willing to make that apology? The fuck?
It's crazy.
I'm sorry that you can't wear a fuck niggers t-shirt because that infringes on, other people's right to feel comfortable where they are, and, on other people's, well, I don't know the technical term, but you know where I'm getting at. Yeah. That's crazy.
And
it's funny that I went to the fuck niggers one because I'm black. That's just the first one that came to my head.
Right, yeah. And I mean, it's a viable example, Something needs to be done, and honestly, and if anyone out there is listening is yo, you guys are so wrong, I would love for you to tweet at me.
Yes.
Open
conversation.
Because honestly, I'm super down for open conversation. Yes. My family is actually very, very, very conservative, and through open discussion, I've realized a few things, and they've realized a few things, and they've become more lenient on the idea of gun control. And I think it is very important that you cannot have guns so easily accessed.
Yes.
Guns shouldn't be less regulated than a car. And you say guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, gun was devised to kill. It is a killing device. That's what it does. That's the purpose of its creation. People should not be able to go around and just willy-nilly purchase a killing device.
Exactly.
Especially one with this capability. You talk about a knife, you talk about a car, you talk about a bat, you talk about all that stuff. Not as deadly as a gun. Guns can wipe out hundreds of people in minutes. Baseball bats and knives and cars can't do that. They just flat out can't. And especially not from a distance. So something needs to be done.
Yeah, 100%. Again, if you're listening, and you're affected, we feel for you. Yes. We send our deepest condolences. If you don't agree with us, our podcast is, we very much, I know I speak for both of us, pride ourselves on wanting to have an open commentary amongst young people.
Foster an open debate.
Yeah. Because we always want to, listen to what you have to say, listen to your opinions, listen to what, you bring to the table.
Yeah.
And we know we'll listen and you'll listen to us, hopefully.
Yeah.
And, spark a conversation that needs to
I
happen.
think, a big part of the issue is you have both sides who have preconceptions about others.
Yeah.
The Republicans are sitting there like, oh my gosh, they want to take every single gun away. And some people do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think saying regulating guns is a bad thing.
Right.
Making sure that it stays out of, the hands of bad people. But anyway, Republicans believe that, and then, Democrats believe, oh, well, the Republicans just want to give everyone guns so that everyone is armed all the time. And I think, we kind of get entrenched in these, like, fallacies, which is neither side is true. And if, a lot of people are like, oh, well, the Republicans probably don't even care. They do. They certainly do. Like, this is a tragedy, and they realize that just as much as we do. They just have a different solution. And I think we need to stop judging and assuming what those solutions are and come together and talk about it so we can actually affect change to try to stop this horrible issue.
Yes, because at its current rate, it does not look like it will slow down.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a uptick in homeschooling over the next several years, because this is, if I know if I was a parent, the last thing I would want to do is send them to a place where I think they could get shot.
Right. Like, and it's crazy to think about. There's people who are all for guns, and none of them say I want a gun so I can kill somebody. Well, at least the law-abiding citizen that is, pro-gun,
right,
I hope is not saying, I want a gun so I can kill someone. It's always about protection.
It's always about protecting yourself or hunting.
Yeah, or hunting.
Those are the two,
protecting yourself. Yeah.
Arguments.
And I am for that. If that's what you need to feel that's what you need to feel safe, then, okay. I'd love to live in a world where there was no guns and, there was no crime. Obviously, that is just not true. Right. And it's never going to happen while I'm living, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Hopefully when my kids are. But, if that's how you choose to live, I support that. But as someone who does not support guns and, probably would never buy a gun to have in my house and to have in a container for protection, because I feel as I can protect myself other ways, I feel that a conversation needs to be sparked. If I send my kid to a school and that happens,
right.
I had no involvement with guns. I never intended to have one, yet I had to deal with the repercussions of other people making, this decision.
And I'm a little opposite there. I am a little bit more of a gun supporter. I do plan on owning a gun. I already own a gun. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that I am not for gun restrictions.
I
regulation,
think they're
extraordinarily important. I think one of the first things that you learn, I don't know, maybe it was just me, when I first was learning about guns, is how serious they are. They're not a toy. It's not something to be messed around with. So in my head, if I'm going to get this item, it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be something that I walk into a Walmart and I'm like, hey, I'd like to buy a gun. And they're like, all right, let me see your ID. And then they, run a quick background test. Right. And then, the background test is nice. It's not as extensive as I think it could be. I think it should be, well, first of all, you have no felons. That's already in place. But, no domestic abusers.
Right.
No sexual abusers. No
predators.
No mentally ill. No predators. Stuff like that. That should be on there. As well, if this kid was part of a, Nazi organization, based on the level of threat that organization has shown, I think every member of that organization should be blacklisted for guns. If they have shown to be a very disruptive and very, menacing, ill-intended organization, then they should be put on a blacklist.
Right.
On top of that, I believe you should have to learn how to use your weapon, because, when I was growing up, yes, I grew up around guns, but I realized what a responsibility that was. And, I think everyone should be responsible for what that is, mm-hmm. and they should know how to properly care for and use it.
Right.
And, to think that gun control is not necessary, I think, personally, is crazy. And I think
It's
it's
absurd.
a small price for me, a legal abiding citizen, to pay to ensure safety for
Right.
the masses.
And it'll ensure for, people like me who don't ever intend on buying a gun, like I will feel a ton more safe when, these regulations or like if those when I think it needs to happen, and I hope it does. When they happen, the analogy of the car and guns are one and the same to me. If
Mm-hmm.
you have to take a test, if you have to sit through a driving course, if you have to pass your driving test, you have to learn all these things. The same needs to be applied to a weapon.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the cop out that a bunch of men, what 200 over 200 years ago, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
said that we had right to guns, doesn't mean that it should still be in its total freedom as it is today. You know what I
Right.
mean? Just because a bunch of guys over 200 years ago said you have the right to free guns doesn't mean there's no restrictions on that.
Exactly.
They said you have the right to free speech, and we've already laid restrictions on that.
Right. And
I,
those were people who were like against gays and
right.
racist. Like
They also only like white land owning males were allowed to vote
Right.
back then. So like you have to think, yes, they had some nice ideas, but it needs to be taken with a grain of salt, and it needs to be able to grow with the times.
It needs to evolve with the times. 100%.
We don't want to live in a world strictly along the lines of the Constitution, because
Mhm.
then over half the population couldn't. Most of the population couldn't vote. Blacks couldn't vote.
Mm-hmm.
Women couldn't vote. You'd wipe out a ton of the voting core, and on top of that, a bunch of people, wouldn't be able to own land, wouldn't be able to work. Is that the life you want to live, or do you want to live one where we evolve with the times,
Right.
and we have the proper laws in place for what is appropriate at the time?
Right. Continue to ask this question. Continue to have open.
And I would say respectful.
Yeah, open and respect. That was the word I was looking for just now. Respectful and balanced conversation where
Mhm.
you listen and be heard about gun control.
And I think just something for everyone. I've witnessed my fair share of Facebook debates and in life, in real person, debates, and I've had my fair share. I think you just need to remain respectful. I've seen both Republicans and Democrats, or liberals and conservatives, however they affiliate themselves. I've seen both sides freak out, start swearing, cussing, everything. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think, from my perspective, when I'm in one of those arguments, you actually have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to read what they wrote. You have to listen to what they say. Otherwise, you can't just sit there and write your response to them and not truly try to take in, because they have a point, and they have a reason for thinking that way. Try to figure it out. And the better you understand them, the better you'll be able to convince them. And that it takes a little open discussion. But if you just start swearing and cussing and saying you're stupid and you're wrong and you're a Nazi and you're horrible killer who doesn't care about anybody, that's not going to get anyone anywhere. You got to
Right.
have open, respectful discussion where both sides really need to listen and think,
Mm-hmm.
and try to understand the other side.
Right. As we close this out, I'm gonna
Ooh,
I'm gonna quote this very wise man.
you were thinking tweet, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I'm gonna quote this very wise man who once said, "I don't go into a conversation to change minds. I go in conversation to have my mind change." That was by yours truly, Nick Clark.
Wait, really?
Yeah, you said that.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna
you
say-
said a version like that.
I
I
was
kind of
gonna
cleaned
say
it
I
up because I
believe
couldn't
it.
remember what you said.
Yeah, and I think that's the way you got to go into it. You've got to go in with the mindset of, what am I missing? What am I missing here? What can I take away from this?
Right.
It doesn't mean your mind's going to change, but it can open some doors that you didn't know were there.
Exactly. So again, anyone affected, please reach out. We'd love to, talk to you and
Right.
make you feel like
Anything we can do.
Yeah, anything we can do to help you deal with the situation that you are dealing with right now. Our condolences to everyone
Yes,
that has been affected by
Our
it.
sincerest condolences, and I really just keep looking for that open discussion,
Mhm.
you know, and do everything you can. You know, use your political power the best you can to, you know, try to stop this. You know,
Right.
donate to a campaign that you like. You know, do some research, find out who you should vote for, and most importantly, vote.
Right. And if you're affected, find the resources that you need to find
Hmm.
for yourself. If you need to talk, if you need to, yeah, however you need to grieve or deal with the situation, please reach out and find those things.
Yes,
Because
there's many out
yeah,
there.
and there's so many people who want to help you and you know, want to be there
Certainly.
for you. But thank you guys for listening to Procrastination Station with Kevin James Booker,
And Nick Clark.
and we'll see you later.
Have a great one, guys.